As someone who talks about movies all the time online, it's time to get vulnerable and honest about the most popular ones that I haven't seen. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got a bit of a unique tier list for you guys. I'm going to be going through the most popular movies I haven't seen from my watch list based on their Letterboxd popularity, IMDb popularity, and just general pop culture impact. I'm ranking them based on how excited I am to watch them for the first time. Before I get into this though, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below which movie on this list you think I should watch first. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. And check out my Patreon for extra content. Your support over there truly does mean the world. As for this tier list, I tried to get some genre variety in here, and there's about 20 or so movies. There's way more popular films out there that I haven't seen, but these are some of the biggest names that span various decades. And without further ado, let's just dive right in. All right, so the tiers I have are top priority, intrigued, on the fence, need to be convinced, and no desire to watch. Again, I've got 20 or so movies. They're popular movies I've never seen from my watch list. Let's begin. First, we've got Lethal Weapon. This is a film I've heard is also a Christmas movie in the same way Die Hard's a Christmas movie, but it's got Mel Gibson, it's got Danny Glover. I've watched countless movies and shows that have referenced Lethal Weapon. I'm aware of what it is, and honestly, I'm very intrigued to watch this one. It seems like it's right up my alley. I think there's 4 Lethal Weapon films with a 5th possibly on the way. I know I would eat this up. It would be my cup of tea. It seems like a movie that is a lock for like a 4 out of 5 minimum. So I'm intrigued to watch it. I just got to find the right time to sit down and watch this franchise. And with the 5th one possibly coming up in the next year or so, could be on the horizon for me to watch this for the first time. Next, we've got A League of Their Own. This is another one of those movies I'm intrigued by. I'd say right here, I know the iconic quote from this movie when he's like, "There's no crying in baseball." Tom Hanks is in this movie. I believe it's about a women's baseball team. I could be off there. They start their own league, a league of their own. That's my interpretation of it. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. I'm intrigued to watch this one. I know it's an iconic sports flick. Does, again, seem like something that would be up my alley. I just never have found the time to watch it. Next, we've got Casino, which, if I'm being frank, is a top priority for me. It's one of the most popular Scorsese films I've yet to watch. I love Goodfellas. I love The Irishman. Most of his mob films, The Departed's my favorite, but most of his mob films really hit for me. I could almost guarantee that I would probably love Casino. The reason I haven't watched it is that runtime. I believe it's about like 3 hours and 15 minutes, so it's a commitment. You have to carve out a chunk of your day to watch this one, and I have to be in a really specific mood to want to rewatch/watch for the first time a mob movie. They're just different. They're not the kind of watches that you can, toss on and have a lighthearted fun time or feel good after. They're usually emotionally draining watches. And so you got to commit. You almost have to set aside a day and like a marathon, some of them. And I feel like Casino is a movie I could watch in the foreseeable future. It's top priority on this list, like in terms of I got to watch this one. People have told me over and over that I would love it. You just got to factor in the time commitment when it comes to watching a Scorsese picture. But next we've got Blade Runner. I honestly, and this is sad to some probably, but I just don't really have a desire to watch this movie. And I'm not taking a shot at Blade Runner. I haven't seen the movie. But based on what I've heard from people whose opinions I usually relate to or have a similar taste in, I don't think that Blade Runner would be my jam. But I've heard from so many people that I gotta watch it to watch Blade Runner 2049. They're like, just power through so you can witness 2049. I'm like, is it even worth it? It's like the classic tale of people being like, oh, just trudge through the first 3 seasons of this show that stink. It gets really good in season 4. Do I want to waste my time watching those 3 seasons? Do I want to waste my time watching Blade Runner just to watch 2049? I don't know. I'm aware this movie's iconic. It's a Ridley Scott film. Ridley Scott's made some of my faves, Gladiator and Alien being examples, but I just don't have a desire to go fire up Blade Runner and watch it. There's like 4 or 5 different cuts of the film. Based on my understanding and from what I've read and heard about this movie, it doesn't seem like something that would click for me, so I just don't really have a desire to watch it, to be frank. Next, we have Chinatown. I'm on the fence about this one. I think I know the final lines of the film. Forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown. It's one of those iconic quotes that you've just heard, but I don't know anything leading up to that point. I just know that one quote. It's a 70s crime noir, to my understanding. Again, don't know too much about it except those final lines. It's got Jack Nicholson. I'm on the fence about it. I've heard good things. I've heard things from people, people who are offline even that aren't in the movie space. I've heard it's great. I've heard it's So kind of on the fence about this one. It's not a high priority title for me, but I would like to watch it at some point in my life. Next, we've got Shutter Island. Speaking of Scorsese, Look, I need to be convinced, and I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with the movie itself. It has to do with the fact that I know the massive twist in this movie. When I was a younger lad, a foolish lad, I watched a Watch Mojo video that spoiled the hell out of some of the most iconic twists in movies. Seven, Fight Club, Shutter Island. Those are 3 that got spoiled for me. I've watched Seven and Fight Club since, more than once, and it didn't really ruin the experience for me. I knew what I was getting into, but I was still able to enjoy the film. Do you guys think that would still be the case with Shutter Island? Because to me, the twist is so huge that I feel like the entire time I'm going to be watching the movie as if I'd already seen it, and I will never get to experience a first-time viewing where the twist is like, oh my gosh, what? And my mind's blown. I'll just be thinking about it the entire time. It's going to be nagging at me. If you know a huge reveal in a movie and the big reveal in the film recontextualizes everything that led up to it, it's kind of a bummer. And so I feel that way about Shutter Island. I need to be convinced. Convince me in the comments that I should watch this movie even if I know the spoiler. Is it worth my time still? That's my thing. Next we got The Exorcist, which I have no desire to watch. I'm putting it back here right now. The reason being is I don't feel a desire to watch this film. I don't mind the demonic possession horror films. I was really against them for a long time in my life. I was like, I don't want to watch that. It's too dark for me. I've warmed up to them with films like The Conjuring 1 and 2, with Insidious, but for The Exorcist, I just don't know if I want to experience that. I've heard it's really disturbing, and I don't know what I gain to benefit from watching it. You know, I don't make tons of horror content. I have my horror films I like, and I'm still exploring the genre more, but I don't know what I gain from watching The Exorcist, except maybe a nightmare or two. So I'm kind of like, no desire to check that one out. I think I'm good. I don't want to see someone projectile vomiting green everywhere and cussing while their head spins around. I just don't know if I want to watch a 12-year-old girl do that on film, so I think I'm good. Next, we have 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the most iconic films on this list, directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it falls in the same category as Blade Runner, where it's a movie that would feel like a chore for me to watch. I don't have any personal desire to watch this. I don't think I'll really enjoy it. I just am aware of its cultural impact and the fact that it's praised by many. But again, comparable to Blade Runner, it seems like one of those movies that's just not going to vibe with me, not going to be my cup of tea. And so because of that, I really just don't have the desire to ever watch it. I would want to watch it over the 2 down there just because, you know, I do understand its impact in the world of movie making, in pop culture in general, but still, I just don't have a desire to watch it. Next, we've got Spirited Away. I have said on the channel many times that I'm not really an anime person, but a lot of people suggest that I still watch this movie, and so I'll put it in the need to be convinced here. You guys convince me to watch Spirited Away in the comments down below. I've never seen a Miyazaki film. I've never seen a Studio Ghibli film. I believe this is Miyazaki. I could be way off base there. Please forgive me if I am. But I just never gone into the Studio Ghibli realm. So do I start with Spirited Away? Do you guys think I watch another one? It's a genre, it's a medium of filmmaking that I've never explored, and so it's foreign territory to me. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Next, we've got The Sandlot, which I need to add some context to. I've seen out-of-context scenes from this film. I've seen like 20 minutes at a time of this film on TV. I've just never sat down and watched it in one go. I honestly am intrigued to watch this one. I would put it probably right here, frankly. I know I need to watch it. I just didn't grow up with it. The Sandlot falls into that category of films for me where I view it as a movie that, like, if you didn't grow up with it, going back and watching it as an adult is not going to hit the same. It's like maybe even the prime example of that. I know a lot of people who love The Sandlot, and they all grew up watching it. I know a lot of people who don't care for The Sandlot, and they didn't grow up watching it, but they watched it at a later stage in life. Like some of my closest friends are like, yeah, The Sandlot's whatever, but if you grew up with it, you got that nostalgia. And I have movies like that too. Trust me, we all do. I can't really speak on The Sandlot because I've never fully seen it. Maybe it'll have like a Stand By Me effect. I watched that movie when I was 20, and it really hit me. Hopefully The Sandlot can maybe do the same, stir up some emotions, make you nostalgic for childhood. That's what I would hope to gain from watching The Sandlot, so I'm intrigued to watch it, and obviously it does star James Earl Jones, rest in peace to the legend himself, so might have to get around to that one sooner rather than later. Maybe in the summer, though. I feel like that's a summertime watch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next, we have the Before trilogy, directed by Richard Linklater, a trilogy of films that's been on my watch list for years. I just never gotten around to them. Honestly, I'm kind of on the fence about these. I'll tell you why. I'll put it at the top of on the fence. I've heard so many people praise this trilogy. Lots of people have it as like their top trilogy ever. But I know someone in my life, this was probably 2019, who watched the trilogy. And it was actually my roommate, my freshman year of college, watched the trilogy. And he's like, I don't know if you would like this, because we watched a lot of movies together. And he's like, I don't know if this would be your speed or not. And that was obviously 2019. It's 2024 now. Apparently, it is just very simple storytelling. It's a love story, two people going on dates 3 times. I believe they meet up. And the cool thing about it is the first film takes place in a year. And then, 6-7 years later, they made the next one. And so the actors actually aged with the characters, which I find fascinating. I just don't know if the 4 trilogy would be my jam or not. That's why I'm on the fence. There's a chance I love it. There's a chance I'm like, these are boring. I don't know. I have no clue where I land with it, so convince me. Next, we have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Need to be convinced on this one. Put it right here. A lot of the movies on this list I haven't watched because of what I've heard, right? And people have told me, oh, I think I know you, Chris, and I don't think this would be your jam. So that's why I'm hesitant about watching most of them. But I need to be convinced on this one because I have heard that it's pretentious from a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people go, oh, movie's uber pretentious, and it got irritating. But I've heard, on the other hand, that it's amazing. It's one of those like mind F movies that will make you rethink life, and it's maybe Jim Carrey's best performance. And so I've heard the pros and cons to this film from various people. Obviously, any movie on this list that I watch, I would form my own opinion on. But I do need some convincing for Eternal Sunshine, because to me, The Truman Show is my favorite Jim Carrey performance. But if he gives a great dramatic performance here, that's something I feel like I got to see at some point. So Eternal Sunshine, convince me. Next, we have Raging Bull, which I know this is crazy. It's a Scorsese flick. I haven't seen it. I don't really know if I have a desire to watch this one, which is weird, right? I'm going to put it up here because I feel like of those 4 in that category, it's the one I have the highest probability of watching the soonest. But Raging Bull, I've heard, is a great performance from De Niro, all right? De Niro won the Oscar for this film. But at the same time, I've heard it's quite a drag to sit through. Scorsese's awesome. He's made some bangers, but I just don't really know if Raging Bull is something that I'm dying to go see. Next, we have Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey wasn't really a household name for me growing up. For comedies, I would explore, the Will Ferrell stuff, the Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, those types of movies. Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, I didn't really watch their films as much growing up. I was born in 1999 for context, so I grew up in the 2000s when we were getting Will Ferrell comedies every year and like Superbad, So these movies were a bit before my time, and I never really got around to Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler's biggest hits. Regardless, Dumb and Dumber is a movie that I'm not going to say I'm never going to watch, but I need to be convinced for sure. I'll put it like right here. You guys got to convince me to watch this, because I've seen some clips from it and I'm like, this is ridiculously stupid. I don't know if it's my sense of humor. I love, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen, to be honest with you. I consistently laugh out loud watching that show. Then I love movies like, Jump Street Films, This Is the End, Superbad, The Big Lebowski, Tropic Thunder. I love that kind of humor, but Dumb and Dumber, from what I've seen, looks just like 100% slapstick, fart jokes, and people like slapping each other. That just doesn't seem like something that would make me laugh. I didn't grow up with it. I'm just gauging this based on my personal sense of humor. It seems like something that I would roll my eyes at. So I'm like, convince me. If there's more depth to the humor than just people making fart noises and stupid faces, I could watch it, but this movie's just always screamed that it's so dumb and there's nothing going for it that I've avoided it. Next, we got Edward Scissorhands, which honestly, I'm very intrigued to watch this. I'm going to put it up here at the top of I'm intrigued. Reason being, I just watched Sleepy Hollow for the first time, which is a Tim Burton flick starring Johnny Depp, so that's got that going for it. So does Edward Scissorhands. I liked that movie, and I'm not usually a Tim Burton guy. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and I've heard Edward Scissorhands is one of Tim Burton's more accessible films, right? So I want to give it a go. I've heard it's kind of spooky. Tim Burton's films usually have that gothic appeal to them, and honestly, I think I'll like this one. I'm weirdly optimistic about it, so I'm intrigued, and I may even try and get around to it before this Halloween to add to the spooky season watch for the year of our Lord, 2024. But no, Edward Scissorhands, I'm intrigued to watch, and there's a fighting chance that movie is one of my favorite Burton flicks, because Depp and Burton might be my jam. My favorite is Sweeney Todd of their collaborations. Sleepy Hollow, Edward Scissorhands, come on now, could be a winner for me. Next, we've got Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Context is needed here. I've watched 30 minutes of this movie, the first 30 minutes in college, my freshman year, and I turned it off. I was like, this is just not my thing. I could probably return to it now, maybe appreciate it more, maybe have that mindset that, oh, this is still not my thing. But I need to be convinced. I'm going to put it in this tier, probably like right here, right in the middle of need to be convinced. Is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World worth me giving another shot? Is it worth me going to finish? Please let me know. Next, we have Men in Black, which I'm kind of ashamed to say I haven't seen. I know that this one's like maybe one of the most offensive, at least in terms of like popular movies that are blockbusters. Like, how have I not seen Men in Black? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But honestly, Men in Black is a top priority for me. I want to put it up there right now. Like, it's one of those movies that when I tell people I haven't seen it, usually they're shocked. They're like, what? You haven't seen Men in Black? A lot of people say it's Will Smith's best movie. A lot of people say it's a must watch. I just have never watched it. I don't know why. You know, there's just those movies that kind of get away from you when you're growing up and there's so much to watch. We're inundated with content, right? TV shows, movies, video games. We're trying to watch it all. Sports, if you're into that. I am. College football, go Dogs. But when it comes to Men in Black, like, I just never got around to it. It's one of those series I just never watched. So it should be a top priority, right? I'm putting it up there right now. Next, we've got A Clockwork Orange. Another Kubrick film. We got a Kubrick trend here going of things I have no desire to watch. Like, I'm actually putting this at the very back. I will never watch this movie. I guess I can't say never, but I don't find myself getting in a situation in my current stage of life or the future where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to settle down for a nice little Clockwork Orange movie night. Like, when it comes to this film, I'm aware of certain things that happen, and it seems so disturbing that I just have no desire to watch it. I've heard that it does something with the Singing in the Rain song as well that could potentially taint that for me, and I don't want to bring down the joy of that movie. I love Singing in the Rain. I just have no desire to watch this. It seems like too gross, too disturbing, too dark. I don't need that right now, all right? I don't need it in my life, so I have no desire to ever watch A Clockwork Orange. Next, we have Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson flick. I think I watched part of this in elementary school or middle school at one point, but I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I'll put it right here. Like, I like Grand Budapest Hotel. Other than that, I don't really care for the Wes Anderson films I've seen. I have to do a lot more exploration of his work. But Fantastic Mr. Fox, I know the Roald Dahl novel. I read that at one point in my life, but I'm on the fence about ever watching this just because Wes Anderson is so hit or miss for me from what I've seen. Next, we have Full Metal Jacket. I'm actually intrigued for this one, and I'm going to put it right here. Full Metal Jacket is one of those movies that you've heard quotes from. We all have. You know, the drill sergeant. I've seen some clips of that. Trust me, it gets wild. But Full Metal Jacket, a movie I'm intrigued to watch, a movie I'm not like dying to watch anytime soon. That's why it's not like top priority, but I am intrigued, I'd say, to check this one out. I believe it's also a Kubrick film. A young Matthew Modine, who you know as Papa from Stranger Things, is in this film, and even Vincent D'Onofrio in here, who plays Kingpin. So there's some young studs in this film. So yeah, Full Metal Jacket, a movie that I probably would vibe with. I probably would like. I'm intrigued to watch it. I just got to find the time to get around to it. And rounding out this list, we've got Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'd say probably Spielberg's most popular movie that I haven't seen. I got to rectify that. Spielberg is, you know, probably my favorite director of all time. It's a tie almost between him and a few others. It's really, really tough, but Spielberg's made some of my favorite movies of all time over various decades. So I got to tip my hat to the man. This is a top priority for me because Spielberg is one of my faves, and it's one of his most iconic films. I gotta watch this movie. Maybe I do it this spooky season, but Close Encounters is one that I'm ashamed to say I've never seen because I love Spielberg so much. It's just a movie I've never got around to. And there's other Spielberg films, there's other Scorsese films that I haven't seen. They're both in my notes. I didn't want to talk about all of them in this video because I didn't want them to take the spotlight away from everyone else. But I gotta finish Spielberg and Scorsese's filmography at some point in my life. But that does it for this tier list ranking of the most popular movies I haven't seen based on my excitement to watch them. Let me know down below which ones you think I should prioritize, which ones do you think I should never watch, and which ones are your personal favorites. Of course, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and stay tuned for more content coming very soon. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.